Hi, everyone. This is Barbara Shor, and I'm with Laura Johnson, and we're ready for an interview. She's had such an exciting life, and I can't wait to talk about it. So here we are. Hi, Laura. How are you?
Barb and everybody. Man, it was so wonderful to connect with everyone at the reunion. So I guess this is just to share a little bit more about what I've been doing for the last 40 years.
Exactly. So what did you do I didn't remember you being involved with wildlife during school, were you?
You know what? I was not the least bit involved with wildlife during school. In fact, I went to vet school because I was passionate about horses and I was going to be a horse doctor. And that's all the experience I had prior to vet school. And that was, really my intention. But I got really interested in small animal medicine in some of the clinical rotations. And then for a while, I thought, well, maybe I would try to do mixed animal practice. But I did end up starting working at a small animal clinic, right after graduation. And I've worked with small animals ever since. But I actually got involved in wildlife primarily through that first clinic. There were some people who were working with raptors, and once in a while they'd find something or they'd bring something in, and it would go into a little isolation room and have some food thrown once in a while at it and usually die. And I just thought there has to be a better way. So I set about learning what was that better way, and ended up becoming a licensed wildlife rehabilitator. Have worked primarily with raptors for many, many years. My current husband and my ex-husband were both falconers, so that sort of came naturally. And yeah, I've been doing it for a long, long time. And
That's so cool.
it
So
is.
where was this practice that you started in? Where are you now?
Well, so I worked for 25 years in La Crosse, Wisconsin, which is a larger city on the Mississippi River on the western edge of Wisconsin. And then 15 years ago, Neil and I got married. My current husband, Neil Reddick, and I moved to a smaller town and a smaller practice where I just work very part-time, called Prairie du Chien. So that's where I am right now. And I'm just about, after we talk, getting ready to go out and do my bird chores, which includes our own raptors. We have some captive raptors I can tell you about, but then I have right now 6 fledgling kestrels, a great horned owl who's about ready to fledge, 2 young screech owls, a barred owl with head trauma, and then I just released a red-tailed hawk with a coracoid fracture. So
Whoa.
most rehabilitators will tell you that spring and summer get sort of busy.
You don't have any life other than that, do you?
Oh, I do though. Yeah.
You do?
It just requires a lot of juggling. Yeah.
To take care of those babies, I can only imagine.
Yeah. Well,
like,
right now they're all sort of relatively self-sufficient. They're in flight cages. They're being introduced to live prey. In fact, I just put live mice in with my screech owls last night with a camera, and they actually were like super interested in making a lot of attempts, and they're really pretty babies yet. So it's part of the process, of preparing them for release to the wild. So.
what do you feed them when they're little babies before they can eat meat?
Oh, well, they eat meat just in tiny, tiny pieces. We have a freezer full of every sort of creature you could imagine. A lot of mice. I actually trap live mice, but I also buy some mice from Rodent Pro. All 3 of our falconry birds hunt, and so they provide us with, during the season, rabbits, squirrels, pheasants once in a while. They keep everybody pretty well fed.
Wow.
And then Neil and I are kind of roadkill experts. We've we have certain routes where we know that it might be likely to find a fresh squirrel or something like that, and we've perfected the technique so that we could drive by something at 60 miles an hour and tell whether it's worth stopping for or not. So it's a little strange. And then we do get roadkill venison from time to time, and Neil eats some of that, but some of it goes for the raptors. And it's actually something that we do. We typically haze film crews by feeding them roadkill venison, and then but not revealing it as roadkill until they talked about how wonderful it tastes. So the National Geographic crews and stuff like that stay here usually get roadkill venison.
My God.
Sorry, I can't believe I'm talking about roadkill already.
But you know what? When I graduated from school and I was doing my residency, I spent 2 years with California Fish and Game. And my project that I did was to pick up roadkill deer on the California roads every day. And then I would necropsy them and take certain tissues. We were doing a deer condition study. So I became really good with roadkills.
Yeah, that's great.
I didn't eat them though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's funny.
So and that was sort of a segue, but from the baby. So the very young ones, the nestlings, the raptors particularly, are usually fed, by their parents, whatever prey they're bringing in, but tiny pieces to start with, and then larger pieces, and then whole prey that they grab from their parents as they bring them into the nest.
I thought that birds often regurgitated for their babies. Isn't that true? Is that true?
Well, raptors don't, but there are
there
are a number of passiforms that will do that.
I guess I didn't realize that raptors don't, and that the babies just eat meat. I didn't realize that. Yeah, interesting. Wow, so you've become the roadkill queen.
Yeah.
So I don't know where to go from here.
I know, I'm sorry.
So how did you meet your husband? That's got to be interesting.
Yeah, so I met Neil because I am the only doctor in sort of this tri-state area of Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. We're just right where all three states meet, that dealt with raptors, and he's been a falconer since he was 15. And so I met him with sick and injured birds. And he grew up in the Chicago area, but has lived in this driftless area of Wisconsin, and specifically this farm, for like 35 years. So yeah, I met him when I was working in La Crosse at a clinic. And again, because I was doing wildlife rehab, people started to bring raptors to me. And then I sort of morphed into doing a lot of cetacines, because for a lot of people, birds are birds, and they'd be like, you do birds, so here's my parrot, So I have worked with cetacines a lot over the years, and still do quite a bit of that.
That's amazing, Laura, because I did a residency in non-domestic animal medicine, and birds were kind of a special thing. And I mean, there's a lot to know. And you learned all that on your own?
Yeah, I mean, I did it all after vet school, and just lots of conferences and, reading and continuing ed, because I hadn't worked with them at all. And obviously birds are physiologically and anatomically and in every way so different than mammals. And also every bird species is different. And so, but it's some really wonderful, although challenging, to learn new things, as we all
Yeah.
know. And so,
Yeah,
um,
that's
no,
fantastic.
no.
Yeah.
I
And so
mean, dogs and cats still pay the bills for the most part,
Mhm.
and I certainly, the raptor work is all volunteer, except that I did have a fellowship about a year ago with the University of Minnesota Raptor Center, a program called Partners for Wildlife, which is to promote collaboration and communication between veterinarians and wildlife rehabilitators. So I did a year fellowship with them, and that was like the one and only time I ever got
but you
paid
just
for any sort of.
you froze and your voice was cutting up. Can you say that last couple sentences again?
Yeah, I did a fellowship. Well, it ended about a year ago. I received a fellowship from the University of Minnesota, the Raptor Center, with a program called Partners for Wildlife. And it's an organization that is devoted to improving collaboration and communication between wildlife rehabilitators and veterinarians to try to improve the quality of care and the outcomes for wildlife patients, and just get those two groups sort of connected. And because I am both a veterinarian and who works with other rehabilitators and a wildlife rehabilitator, I think I have a fairly unique perspective on what the needs are of both of those different groups.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
You know what I realized when we were together at CSU and the Raptor Center and all that is that that whole field has progressed so much in the last years. I mean,
Oh,
when we were in vet school, it was nothing. Nobody knew anything.
I
Now
know it.
it's
And
huge.
it's amazing. And it's very there, there's now finally some really serious science and some studies, and it is it's eclipsing me, like every other aspect of veterinary medicine, I feel. Yeah, there's some really, really wonderful work that's being done.
Yeah. Was your husband a rehab person before you got together? Did he on this farm?
No, he has never been involved in wildlife rehab. And I mean, I should just tell you, I guess, a little bit about him. He's a wildlife cinematographer. He's been filming wildlife all over the planet for well, 50 years probably. And he has a really unique story. He was a falconer and obsessed with raptors, and he had been to art school, but also had cameras. And when he was 23, became completely obsessed with harpy eagles, which is a very rare, huge, amazing eagle in Central and South America. And they had never been filmed, and they'd really not ever been studied or photographed even much. And he said, I'm going to go film harpy eagles in Central America. And everybody laughed at him. And but he's, if not extremely persistent. And if he's passionate about something, he doesn't give up. And so he painted houses and slung garbage and made some money and took a couple of friends to Guyana. And the short story is that he lived in the jungle for 9 months, took in a shotgun and a couple of bags of rice, and accompanied a surveying team, lived in the jungle of Suriname and Guyana for 9 months, and came back with the first footage of harpy eagles and a harpy eagle nest that anybody had ever gotten. So that sort of springboarded his career. And then he went on to film the Philippine eagle. He's become very well known for his work with raptors and large forest eagles. And he climbs and has sort of pioneered some of the moving through the canopy shots that you see. Now it's all done with drones, but Neil did all sorts of rigging of cables and cable tracking systems and that sort of thing through rainforest canopies for years and years and years. So most of the places that he's worked are, and that I go with him, are hot, jungly, buggy places. But he has filmed pretty much everything, you know, grizzly bears, elephants, lions, everything here in the US, and all over the world, really. So if you've ever watched National Geographic or Animal Planet or the BBC or Nature, you've seen some of his work, because he's really was one of the pioneers and one of the first people that actually did that crazy stuff.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you deal with the bugs and the heat and the moisture and the
Oh gosh. It can be really hard. I mean, people tend to think that his job is, you know, sort of glamorous and really fun and cool. And I mean, there certainly are aspects of that, but he has literally spent half of his life sitting in a blind 200 feet above the ground, waiting for something to happen. And with big eagles, sometimes nothing happens for days. So it can be really, really tedious. It can be incredibly challenging physically and uncomfortable. I've been on several shoots that were very, very difficult in a lot of ways. We filmed harpy eagles about 10 years ago in Panama, actually in the Darien, which is where people are all coming through now, trying to cross into the border. And that was a very, very challenging shoot. We were filming a harpy eagle who was about 4 months old, a chick. So we hiked in to the forest with 6 weeks worth of gear and food. And normally there's tons of water available, but this was the dry season, and it was really, really dry. And it was very, very difficult to find water. I actually ended up hauling all of our water there were 6 people in our team, all of our water on my back every day for drinking, cooking, washing, I mean, everything. And we had to really, really ration it. And we had to also really ration our food, because we didn't really have enough. So once in a while, the Embera Indians that we were working with would bring in some sort of unidentified piece of meat that we would cook. But it was that was a really challenging one. And then for Neil, I mean, he's climbing every day. We're going out to whatever spot he's got a blind up in a tree, and you know, then he's climbing, and then I'm hauling gear up to him, and usually then I'm at a different location where I can sort of see what's going on and be on radios with him, giving him, you know, updates on what's going on.
Wait a minute, you said you're handing deer up to him while he's in a
handing gear. I'm sorry.
gear.
So climbing ropes, and the cameras are all going up on ropes, and the gears and the
Okay.
yeah, battery, everything he needs for the day, because he will go he'll climb early in the morning for the projects that require climbing, and then usually not come down until late in the day.
How does he climb up those trees?
He rope climbs.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Which yeah. So so that was one challenging project. And then we lived in the Philippines for 6 months, doing a film on the rarest eagle in the world, which is the Philippine eagle, and the conservation efforts to save it. And that's actually something that is available free on YouTube now, if anybody is at all interested in what it's like to actually do this kind of stuff, we were filming the Philippine eagle, but there was also a team filming us. And so there's a lot of footage of the whole process of building blinds high up in the tree and getting the birds accustomed to things, and just a lot of the hardships that come with living in the jungle without electricity for 6 months.
Wow. Can you at the end, maybe, can you give people some links or some way to find some of these things?
Yeah, absolutely, because there actually are a number of things that are streaming right now that we've worked on, a Netflix series, a bunch of things on Disney Plus. There's
Wow.
there's an IMAX film right now that we worked on that if people go to IMAX theaters can see. It actually has my trained owl in it too. So
You're
um,
what?
I have a great horn. Well, it's Neil's falconry. One of Neil's falconry birds is a great horned owl, but he's sort of a movie star too. So I trained him, and he performs for a lot of different films.
That's so cool.
I know. I wish I could bring him in here. I
Yeah,
could,
really.
but he's an imprint, so he just vocalizes constantly. So his name's Robbie. He's a superstar. I'll send you some pictures.
Yeah, that'd be great. Wow, what a life, huh, Laura?
I know. You never know, I guess. You can think that your life is going to go one way, and then things change, but you just go with what offers, the world offers you. And I guess for me, although I've certainly done veterinary medicine, that 80 hours a week on call every other weekend, for years and years and years early in my career. When Neil and I got married, I first of all had the opportunity to travel with him, to get hired to help him. And I a lot of people can do veterinary medicine and can practice and be probably way above my skill level. But this is sort of something that only I can do because I know how to help Neil. I know what he needs to be able to do his best work. And, I can really help facilitate things. So I've really made the decision to cut way, way back. I practice, I'm at the clinic usually about a day a week, but I have a wonderful boss who says, I'll take you when I can get you. So I kind of set my own schedule and then, work with Neil a lot. And also hang out a couple days a week with my 4-year-old grandson, which is also pretty fun.
Oh, we didn't talk about your family. What about
Yeah.
that?
So, well, I have one daughter named Cara, and
From your first marriage?
yes,
Uh-huh.
and she's went to college actually in Dublin, Ireland. Turned 18 and went across the world to a place where she didn't know anybody, trying to maybe get as far away as possible. But eventually she moved back to Wisconsin, and she and her husband live very close to us, actually in the other half of a duplex that we have, or another building, another town. And so I get to hang out with her 4-year-old son, Leo, a couple times a week. And it's a really a wonderful opportunity, not only for me, because I get tons out of it, but I get to introduce him to, all sorts of wonderful things in the natural world that isn't on a phone or an iPad or on a screen or something like that. We live in a beautiful place with a marsh, and I walk him out there. I mean, he's been out on that marsh trail every day that he's been alive, just about. And so just helping shape a young human being is a pretty phenomenal thing to do as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you look at the attention span of kids these days,
Yes. Well, I mean, there truly is something called a nature deficit disorder. And I don't know, I think most of us have felt that if we're tense, if we're anxious, if we're nervous, we get outside and it changes us.
Yeah.
And I am completely addicted to being outside. And I just really strongly believe that it's something that we're meant to do, and our mental health and physical health and is so much better if we can spend time outside.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really important to connect with nature, with animals, just with the natural world.
Absolutely. And see what's really there, see the real thing and just immerse yourself. There's so many, all of your senses, are involved. I mean, I'm listening right now to all the bird calls outside. You probably can't hear them.
I heard them a little while ago, but I don't hear them now.
Anyway, I'm looking out at, this is
Oh, beautiful.
our back meadow. We have a couple 100-acre old farm here. I'm sitting in an old farmhouse, but a lot of it is wooded, but it's very rolling hills. It's the driftless area of Wisconsin, so the glacier didn't flatten it. So maybe because I grew up in Colorado, it really helps me to have all that rolling topography.
Yeah.
Hills and valleys. And so anyway, we have a lot of wooded acreage, but we have 10 acres of a tall grass prairie that Neil planted about 40 years ago. And then the rest of about 35 tillable acres is now in a CRP pollinator protector program. So we do a lot of work just trying to maintain our land as a wildlife haven. And right now we're actually working on a project for Cornell Lab of Ornithology, which is a grasslands conservation initiative. And we're collecting media images for use. And we don't know exactly how they're going to put everything together and how it will all be used, but will be for organizations that are promoting grassland conservation and agricultural practices that still, enhance the biodiversity and leave some habitat for wildlife and that sort of thing. So it's very cool because we're a whole lot of it we're doing right here on our property, because we have, meadowlarks and bobolinks and kestrels, and we have a bald eagle nest on our property, just all sorts of really great things. So it
sounds wonderful.
At this point, although it's wonderful to travel, sometimes it's really nice to just stay at home as well.
I'm finding too, as I get older, I'm not as comfortable traveling as I used to be.
I know it. There's never, it never seems to go smoothly. And I think we all get more set in our ways. There's like certain things that we need.
Yeah.
To me, that's a wonderful thing about getting older is you know yourself better and you know what it takes to make you work.
That's true. And but I'm finding I have more as well as I'm getting older, from my body. Wisdom accumulated, right?
Yeah, right.
Wow.
Well, I need to go pretty soon. It was really hot today and I have a bunch of bird chores to do, but I can just list some of if people are interested in watching some of Neil's work. Well, first of all, we do have a website and a Facebook page, which I'm not very good about keeping up with, but they're a place to start.
Okay.
So it's Neil Rettig Productions. It's NeilRettig Productions. So, and I try to let people know what's happening, what is airing or streaming or able to be seen. Oh, actually, just on Saturday, there was the premiere episode of a new National Geographic series that Neil was involved in. It's called The Extraordinary Birder, and it's a series about there was a fellow named Chris Cooper who was in the news a few years ago because he's a Black man who was bird watching in Central Park, and he got harassed, and it was a pretty ugly thing that happened to him. But the result of it is that he got his own National Geographic show, and So Neil filmed for that quite
Oh,
a bit.
great. I saw an article about that. It sounds
Yeah,
really interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he's a really fantastic person. So, so that is a series now on National Geographic, and it's also streaming on Disney Plus. And
Great.
I just put on our Facebook page if people want to look at it. But then there's a Netflix series called Animal, which is a, I think, 8-hour series. There's 1 hour on birds of prey, and we filmed all of the bald eagle uh, footage, and there's some really spectacular footage. We happen to live, 5 miles from the Mississippi River, and it's actually an area, it's the largest concentration of bald eagles in the lower US now. And so Neil has been able to film a lot of bald eagles. So that's on Netflix right now. On Disney Plus, there's a national park series. It's Nat Geo and Disney Plus, and he filmed a lot of the Voyageur parks episode. And then also on Disney Plus, there's America the Beautiful, which is a series that he filmed for. So that's a start.
That's a
Oh,
lot.
and then I think to me, the thing that we've done that has made the most impact, that really tells, especially Neil's story, is the film that was made about our expedition to the Philippines. And the whole reason we went was to document this bird. Again, Neil had been there 30 years ago, but this extremely rare bird, potentially going over to the edge into extinction, and also to create media for the use of the Philippine Eagle Foundation, which is a wonderful, amazing organization in the Philippines that is working super hard to save the bird and its habitat. So we went to produce educational films for the PEF, which and we worked with Cornell Lab of Ornithology. They sponsored the expedition, and they did create some beautiful films for the PEF, but they also ended up making this feature film that is about the Philippine eagle, but it's also Neil's story about being there 30 years ago and then going back, and again, what it takes to get this footage, and the hardships and the passion. And it's something that we're both really, really proud of, because it is making a difference in the Philippines,
Right.
that bird. And we're in contact with the Philippine Eagle Foundation staff all the time, and there's progress in both habitat conservation and less shooting of eagles, and all the things that are required. There's probably only a few hundred pairs of eagles in the wild, so every bird counts. Anyway,
How do you find that? How do you
yeah,
actually see?
the film is called Bird of Prey, and there's a website, birdofpreymovie.com,
Okay.
and that has a little bit about the film and a teaser, and then a link to for a while we took it to different film festivals all over the world, and then you could pay to rent it, but now it's streaming free on YouTube.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
birdofpreymovie.com, and it's 90 minutes, so you have to set aside that much time if you really want to watch it all, but it explains far better than I could do about Neil's life and his work, and also about this absolutely incredible eagle that is so much at risk of the planet losing.
Isn't there a film also about the harpy eagle?
Yeah, there are multiple films about the harpy, a number of series. Nat Geo has done a number of things that he's worked on, and some other things. Maybe at some point I can figure out how to actually send you some links. I mean, I can easily send you some links if you have a place to post them eventually.
Well, I would pass them on to Donna, and she's posting them on the
Okay.
website. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, this is great. Wow.
Well, it's really so nice of you to be interested in my life. I'm sorry, I just
I
um,
think you're fascinating, and I love the work you're doing. I think you're really making a difference for a lot of animals.
well, we really hope so. And you know, the film has the power to change people and
Yep,
to change the way they care about something. And unless people care about something, they're not going to be concerned about whether its habitat is being lost or, want to make any steps toward conserving it. So,
I agree. I agree. So thank you for what you're doing.
all
And
right. Well,
and good luck with the rest of it. Is there anything else you want to leave people with at the end of this?
oh gosh. Well, just that, I think, life, even if you're 65 years old, like I am, life is just full of opportunities to do something to make a difference. And we can't all go to the Philippines and live there for 6 months in the jungle, but we can all do something. And I think it's really all about making your little corner of the world a better place, and however you can do that. So,
That's great. Thank you, Laura.
hey, yeah. Thank you, Barb. Really nice to talk to you. Bye bye.